Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Thinking Big podcast. I'm your host, Sean Osborn, and I am absolutely fired up that you are here with me today. And if you're ready to ditch those realistic goals and aim for something massive, this is the perfect episode for you. Imagine what it would be like if the words never give up weren't just motivational fluff, but the actual mission statement of your life. Think about the energy that you would bring, the grit you would tap into, and the heights you would reach. Our guest today has lived that reality. He's been up, down, back up, refused to quit, and learned to thrive under the kind of pressure that most of us could only dream about. He's a World Series champion, an Olympian, and a seasoned pro at taking big swings in life, both on the field and off. Since stepping off the baseball diamond, he's channeled that unstoppable drive into empowering leaders, businesses, and sales teams to rise above adversity. And trust me, if you've been feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or just plain tired of settling for the average, his story and insight will blow the doors wide open on what's possible.
Welcome to the Thinking Big podcast with Sean Osborn, the show helping you think bigger into your life and potential. Sean believes by equipping you with the tools, strategies, and philosophies required to be successful in all aspects of your life, you can achieve anything you believe in. Empowering our own growth makes a deeply positive and lasting impact on our lives, community, and our world. Now, here's Sean.
Hey, Thinking Big listeners, this episode is brought to you by The Secrets of Success. This community is designed for individuals who seek more than just fleeting motivation and are ready to actively pursue their goals with certainty without sacrificing fulfillment. If you are not just content with liking motivational content, but are committed to becoming the change you wish to see in this world, it offers a blend of historical wisdom, practical application, and a supportive community for personal and professional growth. Just click on the link in the show notes to get more information. So without further ado, let's give a massive Thinking Big welcome to my friend, MLB World Series champion and all-around unstoppable force, Ryan Lavarnway. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you, Sean. Good to see you. It's been too long since we hung out, bud.
Yeah, the last time we were together, I was actually putting on your World Series ring. That sucker was massive, by the way.
Yeah, it's something that you can't wear every day or else you'd end up with scoliosis because it's heavy. You end up leaning the one direction.
And if you punch someone in the forehead, that would for sure leave some White Sox imprint on their forehead because that sucker is, I mean, that thing is big. That is absolutely huge.
Yeah, what was the movie Ace Ventura where one of the Super Bowl rings was missing a diamond, so he got punched in the forehead to see if that was the one? I always think about that when people say that.
And it was great. So we met up when we were doing a program called Heroic Public Speaking. We're both speaking, we're both doing these things. And it's, one of those places to help us learn our craft and to get better, at speaking and performing. And that's where we met. And it was such a great place to go through and do. I think that program is fantastic, by the way. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that was really my answer to the scariest question that anybody asked me for 15 years of what do you want to do when you're done playing baseball? And yeah. I gave baseball everything I had, all of my focus. That was the reason I got up in the morning. There's the reason I made choices when I was eating and working out and going to sleep and not drinking too much, not trying other things. So for me, I didn't have a plan B. And retiring from baseball, having a daughter and wanting to allow her to sleep in her own bed every night instead of moving all around the country, which was what it required for me to chase that dream. Heroic Public Speaking, it helped me answer that question. Well, what are you going to do now?
And we're gonna get into that because I think that's a very important thing that you've done, and I think it's critical for a lot of reasons. One, not only if you're retiring from, let's say, sports, but if you're, I've got a lot of people that follow that are career people that are wanting to do a second stage of life. They're wanting to go do a passion thing, or they're wanting to go do something after their big league, their minor league stuff, their career. Yeah. And so I think it's huge what you've done. And I remember one of the things, so we were in a call, God, this was early on. This is before we did like in-person stuff. So this is when we were on calls and we were building out, scripts, and we were kind of developing stories and stuff. And you had mentioned, I can't remember what it is exactly, but you basically said, what we think are responsible goals are just limiting beliefs. And you said something, I can't remember exactly what that was, but it was like that hit me. I'm like, man, that is so dead on that, what we, these things that we think are our goals. It's like, man, those are really just limiting things that we think we can do.
Yeah. So there's a quote in the book, The 5 a.m. Club, that said, limiting beliefs are things that too many good people have agreed to. And it's this version of something that one of my favorite major league coaches told me. Is he said that being a realistic self-evaluator doesn't serve you a lot of times, right? The name of your podcast, for goodness sake, is Thinking Big. If we stick to what's realistic, if we stick to the outcomes that we can see and we can see the path to, then we're leaving a lot on the table. And that coach, Terry Francona, he said to me, he was sending me down to the minor leagues, and it was the 24th time I had been sent down or something. I recently learned that I broke the record for most times being taken off of a major league roster.
But that means you've also got the record of most times coming back on.
Probably, yes. I don't know that version of it. It's definitely a refuse to quit mentality that I have. But he was sending me down, and I had done it before, so I was a pro. I'm not going to beg for my job. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to complain. I take it like a pro. I just say, you know what? I get it. I'm going to go down. I'm going to do my thing. And he says, don't be too realistic, right? Like, if everybody was realistic, nobody would think they deserve to play in the big leagues, because these are the best players in the entire world. Everybody probably played Little League. Everybody maybe played sports in high school. Like, you don't just have to be the best in your neighborhood or your high school or your state. You got to be the best in the entire world. And if anybody was realistic, nobody would think they deserve that. But somebody is going to be that good. Somebody is going to be the best in the world. And then what I say in my speech and what I ask the audience is, honestly, why not you?
Yeah. Why not you? And it's, I think we have to really ask ourselves. And I've looked at that a lot in, coming up to doing what I'm doing. It's like, I think one of the benefits I had is I was never really programmed of what I can't do. So when I see someone do something, it's like, it's like, why not me? Why, if they did it, why can't I do it? And it's like, I was never programmed at, you're not supposed to do it that way, or you can't do it that way. Mm-hmm. So that is a huge thing. And I want to go back into baseball a little bit before we get into too much of the deep stuff, because right now we're in the middle of some big games going on.
Yeah.
And the Astros, God, Detroit took my Astros out. I know you're not an Astros fan, but go Astros.
I'm not an Astros fan, no.
You're not an Astros fan, no. Altuve, come on. You got to love Altuve.
So I was playing for Boston when he got his first $40-something million extension. And, he's 5'0", and some of our veteran players, I was still a rookie at the time, so I was still anybody that got paid, I was like, yeah, good for that guy. I want to get paid too. I fully support it. But some of the veteran guys that had been around, and over the course of time, contracts grow. It's just the natural progression of the world. The TV contracts are bigger for the teams. The market can support it. Ticket sales are higher. So the reason that I got paid more than Babe Ruth, who's in my background right now, is not because I was a better player than Babe Ruth. It's because of inflation and what the market can support. But anyway, one of the players, the veteran players, saw Altuve sign for 40-something million. And I'll never forget, he said, if that little guy is worth 40 million, I must be worth $1 billion.
Yes. And it's so the team, so I know you played for the Red Sox, you played for Cleveland. So I got to ask you this, the Cleveland Guardians, come on.
So I was actually, when I played for Cleveland, I was the last year of the Indians before they changed the name. And we knew they were going to change the name. I don't think we knew what it was going to be yet. But I think what they went with is there's a few bridges around downtown Cleveland, and there's statues built on the sides of the bridges that are called the Guardians. And a lot of their logos, a lot of the film, the highlight reel before the game, the pump-up video, has to do with those statues. So I think they tried to go with something relevant to the city. One of the other options was the Cleveland Spiders, and I think the Guardians is better than that.
Even the Guardians is better than that, so that is great. But it's you see that, and it's I don't know your thoughts on that, but it's it's just not the same without the Cleveland Indians.
I mean, if people were upset with the name, it personally didn't offend me, but you try to support other people that had a problem with it.
Yeah, it's but yeah, so they're in the running. I hope it's not a New York, because it could be a New York World Series, right?
It could be. As of today, Dodgers are up, and I don't know what last night the Cleveland game was insane. Do you see that game?
Yeah, and I think Cleveland won, didn't they?
Cleveland won in a 98.5% win probability for the Yankees. The Cleveland came back and won.
That's awesome. So I've got a good friend that lives in New York that's a huge Yankees fan, and I had one of his friends sneak in and put Astros gear in his place.
Okay.
Pissed him off. Oh, good stuff. Yeah, and it's so, one of the things that you've done, I think, very well, and I think that there's way more to come, is you've been able to, transition from, Major League Baseball into, pursuing something that is, much different than that. And it's that is a huge shift to go out and do something like that. What is some of the most challenging things that you've seen to make that transition from Major League to, going and doing speaking and coaching and the stuff that you're doing to help people?
Well, first of all, thank you, because making the transition did not feel easy at all. I think anybody that makes a major life transition will tell you it's a total mind-blowing experience, because there's, as much as you say baseball is what I do, or sales, or whatever your job is, as much as you say this is what I do, not who I am, there's a part of whatever you do, you tell people that's what you do. You see yourself reflected back in how they respond to you. There's something about the self-definition of this is what I'm doing. There is identity tied to it. And it's a big piece of how you spend your time, how you make your living, how you pay your bills, and how you see yourself in the world. And it was full midlife crisis mode for me last year as I was going through HPS. How am I going to pay my mortgage? I had a runway from baseball, which it was nice to have the freedom to explore. But man, it's hard. And anybody out there making a transition, thinking about a transition, know that it's not easy. And anybody that makes it look easy, it's only on the outside. On the inside, we're struggling with some identity crisis, with some how am I going to pay my mortgage crisis, and lean on your network. Really dive deep into who you are, what it is you like to do. And if I could recommend anything that really helped me, it was the book Work Identity. That helped me, and it helped me feel seen, it helped me feel understood, and it helped me take the next step. And it really helped me understand that it's okay if this takes a while. And the only way that it's actually going to work is if I try new things and see what it feels like to do it, to see myself reflected back in the world this way. But sitting down and writing a pros cons list, it definitely didn't work for me. And as that book helped me understand, is that's not really something that works for anybody, really.
Yeah, and it's got to be, so I think anybody that gets good at something, they've spent their life developing that craft of what they're doing, whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, whether it's in, whatever it is, whether it's in cooking. If you're a Michelin star chef, that's kind of who you become. You are a baseball player. You've done it your entire life. And I think sports probably more than even other things, because that is something even as a kid, you dream of playing sports. It's like, so it's embedded in most of it. It's like, so the mindset shift to go from that's what I do and not who I am. I think for you and for like sports like that it's probably even greater than what anybody else will go through, because it really is. It becomes a part of who you are in a way. And that, how do you transition that mindset? It's like from, and I've seen people and I've talked to people who don't make that transition. They can't get out of that. You see them, they're 75 years old. They're still talking about, this is, as they're still playing, sports, or they're still doing that thing. And it's like, I just don't see, how did you get out of that from a mindset standpoint? I know physically, you're doing this, but it's like from a mindset standpoint to be able to allow yourself to do that.
Yeah, I was talking to Theo Epstein, who is, a baseball legend. He'll be a Hall of Famer as a executive in baseball. And I was talking to him about, well, should I coach? Should I get out of the game completely? Should I go into the front office side and try to run a team like you do? And one of the things he said to me over the course of, giving me great advice and offering his time to me, which was very generous, he said, you've spent your entire life, 30 years at this point, becoming a triple PhD level expert at playing the game of baseball, at managing the game on the field, at helping pitchers, all of your skill sets. But even coaching, even running a team, like your expertise in the field of baseball is so deep in one area. But you don't know what it's like to develop prospects. You don't know what it's like to scout. You don't know what it's like to coach. You don't know what it's like to make a trade or to draft. And when he said that, I thought to myself, well, I am a PhD level expert at this one thing. How can I transfer some of those skills or help share some of those skills with other people? And even though I think he was letting me know I still had a lot to learn, the way that I heard it, I kind of reframed it in my mind of, I am such an expert at this one thing, and what transfers from that skill set.
Yeah. And that's true. It's like what they do, what coaches do. It's like you have probably some of the best coaches that don't play, or probably never, I'm sure they all played in a way, but never at a high level. It's like, you look at golf coaches, like they can't, sure they can go out and hit the ball and they can do stuff, but they're not Tiger Woods. They're not, they're not the best. They're the coaches. They've spent their time not developing their actual skill of doing it. They've built their time, building the ability to show other people how to do that. Yeah. And you said something about, what can you transfer over to other things? How can you use the skills that you developed to do, to get to that level and to be at that level? And to me, one of the biggest one is, God, I don't know, applying the discipline of success in sports in what you did to business, to anything that you want to do. Because, talk about the discipline that you had to have going up to get where you were, to not only that, but to come back up to the majors, go get knocked back down, come back up, get knocked back down, come back up. How hard is that to do? What's the discipline needed to do that?
Well, there's discipline, and there's a refusal to accept mediocrity. There's a refusal to accept failure, right? I found that in my, budding speaking career, right? I've been speaking for a little over a year now. I really resonate with sales teams. I really resonate with anybody that faces adversity, that's in a crowded market, that hears no a lot, because you're going to fail more than you succeed at a lot of things, sports in particular. And I think sports is such a beautiful place to learn how to fail and not make that failure a part of your identity. Because you're failing in public, you're failing in front of your teammates and your opponents. Just like sales teams, like you hear no from your potential clients all the time, or you lose out to your competition. And how are you going to overcome that? For me, first step, you have to give yourself permission to be the person that makes the difference, right? If you're going to sell someone a solution, you're going to sell someone something that they need and maybe they don't know they want it yet. You have to give yourself permission to be like, I can help them. I can make the difference. And from there, learn how to frame the conversation in a way that, like, I'm not selling you a service or a product. I'm selling you a solution, right? Solution selling is a big part of it. And then it's understanding, how do you create momentum in the conversation? For me, it was, how do I create momentum in getting my batting average back up, or hitting for power, or catching, throwing runners out? But creating momentum in the sales process is, you got to get someone on the phone first. You got to start the conversation. You got to keep them on the phone. You got to get an email response. You got to, whatever the first next step is. Once you create some momentum, it's so much harder to stop a moving object than to get something started.
There's a book that I read, God, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, called Go for No. And it's like going for no as many times as you can. It's like, if I can get 100 no's, that's awesome. It's like it's kind of a thing on, going for no. It's like the more no's you get, the more successful you are. And that tied into kind of what you were saying on there. Now, from a standpoint of like the discipline, how many times did you want to just say, F this crap, I'm done, I'm going to give up? It's like, I'm done, I'm finished. It's like, and we all go through that. We all go through these points where if you're trying to do anything big, you're going to come to a point where you just want to say, F this, I'm done. I've had enough. I don't want to do more. How did you get through those times going in baseball?
Honestly, there was 1 year where I fell out of love with the game completely. And that was hard. That was hard for me. It was the off season of 2016 going into 2017. It was really hard for me because I lost my love. I lost my passion for the game. And I felt like I acted out. I smoked a little weed that year. I went skiing for the first time, which I don't think either one of those feel like acting out at this point in the world where like weed is now legal. I was in my late 20s at the time.
What a rebel.
Skiing is something people do, right? But I had never done it because from the time I was in 6th grade, one of my teammates broke their wrist skiing. And I said, I can't risk my baseball career. So I felt like I had these restrictions on me and things holding me back because I needed to do everything perfect for baseball. And in allowing myself the freedom to go do these things, I ended up finding my way back to the passion. And luckily with baseball, there's an off season. So there's built in 4 months a year where you get away from it. Other than that one season, most of the times I was sent down, most of the times I was told no or told to go back to the minors. I hadn't lost my passion. It was more of okay, that door closed. How do I break open another door? How do I bust through another wall or go through the window or find the back door? Right? It's a refusal to accept that failure. And how can I find a little bit of momentum? How can I find something in my control to get back to where I want to be?
And I think that is so huge. And if you look at anybody that is successful in any aspect of life, it's been the refusal to give up. It's like giving up is not an option. It's like it doesn't. It's like, and if you don't do that, you will give up. I mean, it comes a time, and again, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in a marriage, whether it's in your career, whether it's in sports, it's like we've got to. Shit's going to hit the fan sometimes, and it's not going to be always great. And it's like we have to be able to just refuse to give up. It's like if I look back at when I built my first company, it's like I literally. There was nothing in my mind that ever even showed, oh, this is not going to work or this might not work. It's like it never even crossed my mind. It's like that was not even a part of the equation. And it's like I look back at that and I was like, man, I need to, that is truly, one of the laws of success is you've got to have that mentality of just never, ever giving up. Not even, nope, delete, gone, out of your mind. You just keep going. And I really liked what you said is, how can I find a way to do that? Like, so when you refuse to quit and someone sets you back, it's like, okay, now what? How can I get around that? How can I go over that? How can I bust through that? No matter whatever it takes, I'm going back to that other side. And it's like, that is such a huge mindset. And I think, so do you think from a sports standpoint, that is more embedded into you from sports is like that you don't give up, that you don't?
Yeah. So there's a poster of Babe Ruth behind me, and this particular poster says, never let the fear of failure stop you from playing the game. But there's another Babe Ruth quote that I think about all the time is, every strikeout brings me closer to my next home run. And that's similar to what you were saying, right? Hunt for no, because after 97 no's, you're going to get 3 yeses or whatever the standard failure rate in whatever industry you are, right? If you embrace the failures, you also can embrace the successes. And I take that one step farther. If you can take ownership of your failures, right? That was something that I learned to do was, there was a couple times I got sent down from the major leagues early in my career where I was hitting over 300. There was a couple times in my career where I got sent down where I had a higher OPS than the guy that won the MVP that year. And in those times, it was hard to own the failure, but I had to find something that I could keep working on, right? Like, it's because my defense wasn't great. It's because I didn't build a good enough relationship with the pitching staff. It's because something. If I could find something to take ownership in the failure, then I could take ownership in that next step, and I could take ownership in getting myself back to success.
And for those that are on listening with us right now, I'm just telling you that is gold. There's so much to unpack in what you said, because that truly is, one of the main things of success that truly is. So if you're listening, go back and listen to that section again, because that is such a big section. I've got to ask you a kind of a fun question. So you were catching. Did you ever have an ump behind you. Here, so, see, this is what I would do. This is the smart ass things that Sean would do. I would purposely duck, miss something, and let him hit him in the nuts, whatever it is. Did you ever like purposely like, oh, I missed that ball and just knock the guy in the chest or the head?
No. No, you can't, because there's only so many umpires, right? And they all talk. They all know who you are. You work with them multiple times. Like, that guy's going to get you back. You can't do that. Come on, Sean.
But see, that's why I would never make it there. First game, they're like, you're out of here. Get out.
You know what? I never got thrown out of a game either in 16 years. Sometimes I feel like I missed my chance. I probably should have. There were some umpires that deserved it, but no, never once.
And you were right at the action the whole time. It's like no smart ass comments saying, "Are you blind?" Like, did you ever start humming Three Blind Mice or anything like that?
No, there was a couple times I dropped some F-bombs, but it was always like, you're effing me, not F you.
Okay, so I guess it's how you say it. See, this is why I would not make it in stuff like that, because I'm very sarcastic. I'm a smart ass. So, getting into some of the things that you're doing now. So you're transitioning, you're going into speaking, you're speaking to, big audiences, and you're doing great on that speaking side on really kind of mentoring other people. So a lot of your coaching or a lot of your speaking is talk a little bit about like what you're speaking about, what you're doing, because I think it's a great transition to what you've done and how you kind of push that and use what you learned into what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, I want to circle back to something you said a little earlier, of that you don't have to have done the thing to be able to coach it, right? Like there's great coaches in professional baseball that never played professionally themselves, but they know the skill set.
Right.
However, when you've done it yourself also and can teach it, because teaching and doing are two separate skill sets, but when you have both, there's such a visceral understanding. And there's a connection that's made between the person that's doing it now and the person that's done it before, that's helping them do it their best. So what I'm doing with my speaking is I'm helping people leverage the best mindset to get to their peak performance, right? So I speak on mindset because I believe mindset changes everything. So it's, how do you give yourself permission to be the game changer? How do you set bigger goals so that when you actually accomplish it, you're really proud of what you did? You didn't leave anything on the table. How do you surround yourself with a team that's going to support you and help you get to your goals? And rather than just thinking about it, how do you start taking action today? So it's about the mindset. And then I also do some speaking about leadership and how can you, as the leader of your team, foster that mindset on your team with your people.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into, when you're talking about, to me, that is the difference between just a coach and a true mentor. So for me, a mentor is someone who's been there, done that, and they're kind of leading you along, and where a coach is kind of the tactical, like you do this, you do that. And you being able to go in and mentor when you're doing your speaking, and the stuff that you speak about, I know you speak to like salespeople, sales teams, but that can really go towards anything. It's like, I've listened to your speeches, and it's like, that can really be applied to many different things, not just sales teams, not just, any executive team. It's like, it is a true, again, everyone goes through crap. Everybody hits that. It's like, so from a mindset standpoint, how can we get past that? And having a mentor that has been there, done that at the highest level. I mean, Major League Baseball, it's like, again, it's like pro football. It's like, you're the best of the best. There's, you can't get much better than that.
I've spoken across industries this year alone. It's been hospitality management, hospital systems, a paper company, a car dealership, insurance, tech sales. And I get a lot of what you're saying. I get a lot of, I want my kid to hear this. I was taking notes, so I want to tell my son, because you're not talking about baseball. You're not talking about life. You're not talking about sales. You're talking about the messiness of being human, right? Yeah. How can I be my best self? And there's people in every crowd that are dealing with something. Maybe somebody's going through a divorce. Maybe somebody is dealing with alcoholism. Maybe somebody's having a hard time at work or with their family. They lost a loved one. And my hope is that this new mindset that I'm coaching you on, that I'm bringing to you, will help you overcome any obstacle that you have.
Yeah, and again, I think it goes for anything, and I think what's great about how you do it is a lot of people can relate to it. So especially the guys, I don't want to be, male, female, but especially the guys, can relate to that story and how, and they can make the connections in their mind of, okay, I see what he's saying because I understand sports. I can see what he's saying and how that mindset shifts over and how you can do that and how I can relate that to what I'm doing, just because everybody knows sports to some level, right? And it's like, so I think that's, if I was to go in and talk about, building my company and talk about the mindset, most people would they can't correlate the two. So I think what you do on tying it back to the sports, and some of the stories that you have in your speech are just hilarious, by the way. It's like, so let me ask you this. What do you, out of a list of the top 3 things that you miss most out of being on a team, being on a sports team, is the camaraderie, like that friendship, that build, the things that you do in the locker room, is that, like, to me, that would be one of the things that I missed more than anything, is just that close-knit bunch of rowdiness.
Yeah, I miss the boys. I miss the guys. I'd say the number one thing I miss is knowing what the most important thing is every single day, right? Like when you wake up in the morning, we're playing to win the game as a team. I could fail, the team can win. And if I do great and the team loses, doesn't matter, because we're all in this together. We're pulling on the same rope. So it's such a thing in life that there's multiple right choices, right? I feel like I've learned recently, because I made my choice when I was 5, right? I'm playing professional baseball. I'm going to do everything I can to be the best player I can be, win the World Series, go to the Olympics, whatever. In life, there's no right answer and there's no wrong answer, right? You can decide to do whatever you want. You can find success. You can redefine success in your own way. But in sports, it's defined. You win or you lose, and So that's the thing that I miss about it the most.
There's a definiteness of it. It's like there's no in between. There's no gray. It's like, yeah, you either go or you don't. So what was more fulfilling to you? Was it like the World Series, or was it going to the Olympics? I wanted to ask you that because like both are extremely like passion things. It's like,
yeah,
which one was bigger for you, the Olympics or?
So for me, the Olympics, I mean, is the peak of athletic performance for so many sports, and the best athletes in the world.
Hold on, except breakdancing, we've learned.
Except breakdancing, we'll talk about that off camera. But baseball, the Olympics is not the pinnacle of the sport. The pinnacle of the sport is the World Series, and now it's turning into the World Baseball Classic, which I've had the opportunity to play in twice. So for me, as far as career fulfillment, it was definitely the World Series, being a part of that team. But the Olympics, I mean, come on, it's a dream. I didn't even think about dreaming because baseball wasn't in the Olympics for 13 years.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And that's, so that World Series must have been just, I bet it goes by quick in your mind. Like it was just a blink of an eye, but it is such
cool.
a big part of something you've accomplished. And it's something that to celebrate. It's like that was a long road of a lot of mental toughness and all the things that you had to do to get there. So congratulations on that. And again, I think a lot of the stuff that you were talking about on the mental toughness, on making the transition from one thing to another, is such a huge thing. So I want to thank you so much for being on here. So what are the best ways for our listeners right now to get a hold of you? Like if they want to have you speak at their event, or they want you to come and speak for their company, what are the best ways for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'd love that. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm very easy to find. Not a lot of Ryan Lavarnways out there. You could check out my website, ryanlavarnway.com, to keep up with everything that I'm doing. I'm pretty active on social, and I answer all my messages. I'm a regular person just like you. So I'd love to connect with any of your listeners.
And those listening, all this will be in the show notes as well. So visit the show notes. We'll have the links actually in there, so you can just click on them as well. But Ryan, thank you so much for being on. Now I got to ask, who do you want to win the World Series? I know who the answer is probably going to be, but I might be surprised. Who do you want to actually win this year?
Oh man, it's tough because I played for so many teams and I know so many players. So like Monday, I flew to LA to see the Dodgers Mets game, and I I knew a third of the players from playing with them in different places. So it's hard for me to take a pick, but I grew up a Dodger fan. The Dodgers are the Avengers right now. They're insanely good. They spent $1 billion last year on players. So I guess if I had to choose, I'd probably go Dodgers.
Over Cleveland, even though you played. So you played for Cleveland, right? I mean, it's like
I played for Cleveland. The Dodgers actually owned my contract for 3 days, but I didn't actually play for them.
Oh, okay. Oh, they did.
And I played for the Yankees in AAA, not in the big leagues. Mets are the only one that never owned my contract.
Wow. From a sports fan standpoint, it's like we grow up in these areas and we become these fans of these teams. Like me, it was the Broncos. I grew up in Denver. It's like I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan from football standpoint. But the players, yes, they have an interest in the team, but this is your career. This is a job for you. And it's like fans get so mad. It's like, Ryan, how could you do this? And you go to another team. How could you ever do that? And it's like, we don't understand as fans a lot of times that this is a career. This is your job. It's like me going to another company. It's like, that's just the way it is. You know,
when I was in 5th grade or 5 years old or whatever, and envisioning my life, right? I pictured that I would sign with one team, play there for 20 years, live in the city forever, find a local wife, and live the rest of my life in that city happily ever after. That's not how it works, right? 8 days after I got called up for the first time to the Boston Red Sox, I'm hitting .305. David Ortiz is healthy and he's a Hall of Famer. So go back to the minors, right? So I was up and down with Boston 11 times over the course of 4 years. And then they wanted to send me down again the next year, and there's some contract specifics with MLB where they weren't allowed to send me down, but they wanted to keep me. They had to offer my contract to other teams, and I got picked up by the Dodgers, and then traded to the Cubs, and then traded to the Orioles, all within 14 days in the month of December. So it's not like it was my choice to leave. I would have played for Boston forever. I love that city. I love that team, that fan base. I played for 13 major league organizations. If you count the minor league teams along the way, I played for 28 different cities in this country. Only one time was the choice my own.
And that's the thing. So I guess at some point you might be able to have somewhat of a choice in where you go. Maybe not. You might not ever, no matter how big you get, but it's like, yeah, you're at the mercy of them.
Only the best of the best players earn free agency and earn the right to really make a choice.
Yeah, and that you're at their whim. So it's like, you know, us as fans, we've got to understand that our players, our favorite players, like Altuve, it's like he's an Astro, but he's a player, and he could be in a Dodger next year. He could be literally they could go anywhere. So it's like it's a much different way to think about it from a fan standpoint. And I'm sure growing up you probably had fans who are like, how could he go to another team?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to realize that that's just the way it's a business. That's the way it is.